All right, mic check. Morning Masters Podcast, y'all's main of course. I got a special guest across me, man, Mr. Earl Gray Summers. How you doing?
Pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Do you go by that name? You just go by all them names all the time?
Off campus, I go by that. People call me, Earl Gray Summers. Of course, my real name is Matthew Williams. That's what I go by in my professional world. So I always use that to try to separate the two worlds, I guess.
Okay, real quick. I'm sorry, just because. So what's your name? Like, is it Earl? I'm making sure for myself.
Earl is fine.
Okay, but Matthew's like it's like an alter ego kind of thing, or
something like that. I wouldn't say that it's an alter ego. It's just an alternate way to refer to me. It's not that big a deal, to be honest with you, especially now.
But what's on your birth certificate?
Oh, Matthew Williams.
Okay. I'm just making sure. Earl Gray sound cool though.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, like it's just two short names, and ain't nothing wrong with that. Okay, cool. So well, welcome to the podcast, of course. I've been trying to get you for like a year and a half, I feel like. I don't know how long it's been, but it's been a good minute. I actually seen you, you talk on social media a lot too. Like you was going live at one point. No lie, kid you not. One time he went live, I'm not lying, about 3-4 hours. I don't know what was going on. And I was like, hot to this day, I still haven't watched the whole thing, right? Because it was a long time. But I was in and out trying to watch it, and you were just taking topics and just talking about different stuff.
Yeah.
So that was dope. Like to me, that was amazing because like it wasn't just one topic you was on. It was like whatever somebody want to talk about and they put in the comments, I went and had like an in-depth conversation just on that alone. So that was dope. So first I'm gonna get your story, man, so people know who you are. Like, so where you from? Where you born? Born and raised?
Well, I actually was born, in Augusta, and it's funny that, we are where we are because I was born in Augusta, but I was raised between Augusta and Trenton, which is literally right up the road right here. Mm-hmm. So it's a thing where I was going to school in Georgia, but living in South Carolina for most of my early life. So I'm very familiar with this area. Was a member of Mount Canaan Baptist Church up the road here. So that's where I'm from. It's right here.
That's what's up, man. Yeah. What was your child, your environment like? You both parents, one? I don't know how that.
Both parents. We lived off of a dirt road. A lot of privacy, a lot of open space to kind of play around and enjoy ourselves. Wasn't always the happiest, every family has their issues or whatnot, but for the most part, we were your standard family, ma, pa, bro, sis, and the dog.
When you say standard, like define that for me, like what's a standard family?
Just traditional, very traditional. I grew up in an area where, the old school, your church family kind of ruled everything. Matter of fact, the original church I was a part of, most of the people there were my cousins, surrounded by aunties, surrounded by uncles, surrounded by cousins. Just like your old school, and I hate using this word, conservative environment. I don't mean politically conservative, but socially conservative. That's how I grew up.
Would you say today, like, is today's traditional family different than when you came up?
Absolutely. Not that I have anything against that because I understand the forces that created that. But I will say that the modern family is a lot of people trying to find love and trying to find balance in circumstances where they've experienced trauma. And I, being a teacher, and we were talking about this a few minutes ago, I see a lot of different kids that come from a lot of different type of family backgrounds, and it gets to a point where you start noticing the impact that certain family structures have on kids. And I don't want to get too into detail about that, but it's very different now, very, very different. In some ways beautiful, but also in some ways traumatic.
Well, like I said, I'm pretty sure you can see now he talks great. That was a great answer to me. I don't know. I wasn't expecting that. It was good though.
Thanks.
But so you got brother, sister, mother, father. You go to college, like
yes.
Well, I want to skip that. Like, what were you like? Grade school. What was grade school? Earl, like, I'm going to say Earl because it just sounds cool.
It's funny you say that because I was going through my things the other day and I found an old picture of me from had to be about like 4th grade. And I used to wear these big Tweety Bird glasses or whatnot. It's funny, when I was in grade school, I was kind of oblivious to everything. Like I told you, I grew up off a dirt road. Yeah. So if I'm going to school in Georgia and I'm going to school with people from, the city and more like the urban life, I was kind of I was just fascinated by everything around me. The people that I'd meet, being out of the woods and being around Augusta itself and that city environment. Academically, I was sharp, but the thing is, my mother was a teacher. So the entire time that I was growing up, it's almost like I was never outside of the classroom. When I went home, I'm going home to somebody who's a teacher. So, she's staying on top of me about my homework. And I was joking with my one of the families I work with in tutoring. And they asked me, how did you get so sharp? You just love education? I was like, no. When I was a kid, my mother told me that I couldn't play video games unless I had straight A's. So I always stayed on top of my grades because when Saturday and Sunday came, I wanted to be able to jump on my Nintendo. And that just became a habit.
Gotcha.
And it really helped me. It really did.
So are you the youngest, oldest, middle?
I am the oldest.
What was
I hesitated because I've learned that I do have some other siblings that I've never met before. So I'm still, my family's experiencing some unique things right now.
Okay.
But as of right now, I'm going to consider myself the oldest.
But in your household, you're the oldest, though, right?
Yes.
Okay. What was that like? Like, I say that because I'm the oldest as well, and I feel like you got your own challenges as a sibling, as an older sibling, really, because you experienced everything first.
Yeah. It's interesting because being the oldest sibling, and again, that whole being on a dirt road and being isolated, I think made a difference because I didn't feel excessive responsibility. I think a lot of times when you're the oldest, you kind of feel like everything's on you. Me and my sister, we were a team. We just kind of did things together. It wasn't more on me, less on her. It was just two kids in the middle of the woods. So whatever needed to be done, we got it done.
Y'all lived in Hesper or something?
No, we lived up here off of Trenton.
Okay.
Off a dirt road, not far, probably about 10 minutes away from here. 10 minutes away from here.
It's different now, though, right? It's not dirt over there still, right?
It's mostly dirt. They did finally bring some concrete road down there, but a lot of the woods are still woods. We do have some people that have moved into that area that are not a part of the family because traditionally it was all our family there, but now we have some strangers that have moved.
I asked that because when I originally came down here like in '99 just to visit, I remember it being like dirt and clay on some of the roads, but them same roads now is like they look real city like. It's not so much country looking no more.
It's still country. It just has concrete. So in other words, it's a concrete road, but everything around it is still trees, woods. Some places you could like go hunting if you wanted to.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay, so like school wise, like what schools you went to?
Let's see. I went to Tabernacle Preschool, which is up there off of Laney Walker Boulevard. I went to Montesana Elementary School there.
That's a good school.
Yeah, and I was born right across the street. Matter of fact, I was born at Trinity Hospital, which
used
to be St. Joseph's Hospital.
Yeah. It's a good hospital too.
Say there.
That was a good hospital.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Ended up going to Tubman Middle School after that, which was a real experience. I feel like it's one of the most valuable experiences of my life. After that, I went to Richmond Academy, and I ended up having to transfer from Richmond and going to Hepzibah High School, and ended up graduating from Hepzibah, where my mom taught. Ended up going to Oglethorpe University for 1 year after high school. Came back to Augusta State University, and that was the last university that I graduated from. So,
I can't let you skip over that. So Tubman. Yeah,
Tubman.
You said something, you just kind of threw it out there, so I gotta.
I had to.
And notice I stopped saying it was a good school after that, right? But no disrespect to Tubman though. Shout out to Tubman. That's a challenging area to go to school anyway.
It is, and I thank God for it. I threw it out there purposely because I wanted you to focus in on it. Tubman at that time had a reputation for being the inner city school, so to speak. It was a place where people just assumed the students were not academically capable. Just like one of the worst reputations in the world. And here I was coming out of the woods, so to speak, and at this school. Yeah, so you can see, total culture shock. I think that was the point in my life where I came to love my Black identity, like really. When I was at Montesana Elementary School, it was a very balanced school, as far as racial, balancing. So I learned how to get along with everybody. But it was Tubman where I learned about my Black history, where I learned about my people, where I learned to not be afraid to embrace that, where I first began to question some of the negativity that we experience as Black people, because I did become aware of some of my friends' living situation. And I was like, how come everybody else gets to live like this, but, this group over here gets to, or is living differently? And what are the forces that lead to that? And I started kind of doing my research, and it just made me very passionate about showing my people in the best light, giving hope to people. I wanted my classmates to feel just as capable. Funny story. when I was in school, I was in the gifted program. And they used to take us over to Langford Middle School for that. So once a week we go over there and, get all this problem solving type stuff, learning how to play chess, learning about the stock market. And I would take my materials and come back to Tubman, and then I'd spread them out in front of my friends and share them with my friends. And sure enough, my friends were able to understand the same things that I was doing in gifted. And I said, well, if they can understand what I'm doing, how come these kids don't have access to the gifted program? And that was something that kind of let me know that there was something wrong with the system, because I was getting opportunities that they were not, being able to get. So,
And how old you this time?
shoot, what's middle school age?
12, 13. So it's about 11.
12, yeah, about 12, 13. Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like at 12, it's like that's a real mature thought to have. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why? Also at 12, I guess depending on how you grew up too. Because at 12, if you got alike living conditions with everybody, it don't seem abnormal to you. Right. Everybody having dad in the house, everybody is maybe living poor. Maybe it don't seem abnormal because everybody's doing it.
Right.
But you coming from a different setting, a different living, different housing environment, I guess that raised your eyebrow.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that's something else I thank God for, is that, like you said, had I grown up in a different environment, I probably wouldn't even have noticed the difference. But because I did come from the outside and got to look in, it did kind of make me feel like something's amiss here. And it just made me curious. It made me very curious.
What's some things you did? Like, because how you explain it now, I don't know, because you're just older, you explain it different now, but how you explain it, almost like if you just went on like a manhunt, like you were just like really like researching every day, like it's just, I have to find these answers. Like, how would you going about this? You ask your mom? Did you ask the principal? Did you?
So one thing we did, and I'm saying we, because, shout out to everyone who might be listening that was a Tubman Middle School graduate. We still keep in contact with each other to this day. We started becoming suspicious of everything, man. Everything.
Oh my God.
We had this group. You know how schools have student councils?
Yeah.
We created this group called the SCC. And it was a thing where we wanted to understand, and I'm trying to remember what our goal was. I feel like we felt like there was corruption in the system, but we didn't know what the system was.
Yeah, I went too far off, but go ahead. But what the SEC stand for?
Student.
I figured that part. Yeah, I'm trying to figure it. Must be corruption, I guess. I'm assuming.
Student Corruption Committee or something like that. We were looking for. We felt like somehow by exploring the school, we could discover what the corruption was and try to fix it. And I don't know, man. Like it brought us together and made us, I think, as young people, feel responsible. We felt like we played a role in this. Like we could try to do something to make things better if we just did the homework or whatnot. And we didn't figure out anything crazy significant, but just it gave us that passion to improve community. And I think that kind of lasted even beyond middle school. So,
and like when I told you, I asked a lot of people how to talk to you, what talking points was like good versus, cause I know everybody want to hear you talk. And I can tell by when you go live, watching who tuning in and the lengthy responses you're getting, like it's actually outrageous sometimes. And you read them all, which is really outrageous. But hey, hey, shout out to you. I asked that because, so what kind of reputation did that give you at that time? Because I feel like you have that now. You have a reputation of knowing a lot of things. You're a go-to guy. Every time I ask somebody something, they say it's a list of people to give me, a list of people they give me to go to, and you're one of them. So
interest. I don't know. Like back then, I don't know if that did anything for my reputation. One thing I did discover, I was talking to a friend a couple of months ago, and what he told me was that I've always been a teacher, and I was like, "What do you mean by that?" He said, "You don't seem to remember, but when you were in school, anytime somebody had a problem with something in class, like trying to understand something, you would always volunteer to go explain to that person." And I thought I was just being a good friend,
right?
But what he saw was that was the teacher in me coming out at an early age. So I think if anything, that was what I had a reputation for just being a teacher in training that just hadn't blossomed yet, even though I had no intention to become a teacher whatsoever.
But then look at it happen, right?
Right.
Did you really not have intention to become a teacher?
Not at all.
When you say no intention, like was it purposely not wanting to be one because your mom was one, or was it just like you never thought about it, or you thought about it, you just thought you weren't going to be one?
Back then, it was I hadn't even thought about it. When I got to high school, it became I don't want to do it. And it wasn't my mom. It wasn't my mom. I never will forget. She came into class one day because I used to be there before school with her. And she said, Matt, one day you're going to be a teacher. And I said, no, I'm not. And she was like, why not? Why not? And I said, I don't want to become a teacher because I see the direction that education is going. I looked around me at some of my classmates and how they really didn't care about learning at all. I knew about some of the home situations they were dealing with where their parents were not really involved in their education. And I said, what I see is that when a lot of these kids grow up, they're going to have children that are not going to share the same values that we share now. They're going to be completely disconnected from the educational experience. They're not going to, they're going to be in need of a lot of things like therapy, because of the things they're going to experience with their family. I saw that when I was in the 11th grade, and I was like, Ma, I don't want to be a teacher in that kind of environment.
What year was this? I got to ask that question. What year was this? 11th grade. What class you on?
That was 1999.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
All right, 99.
Right.
Okay, so you're a prophet as well.
And it's funny, like that's something I struggled with for years, man. Saying these things and adults telling me I didn't know what I was talking about because I didn't have certification, never been in a classroom before, you don't have any experience, you're just being negative, you're grumpy. And then fast forward years later, everything I said was going to happen has come to pass.
Yeah, that's kind of wild. I don't know. I gotta check you out now. I don't know. So you kind of already knew that education was going in that way because we call it COVID, of course, but it still happened. It was yeah. You have a lot of kids disconnected from that experience.
Right.
So I'll just take it. Even with social media, it's going to change now, but I'll take a experience of younger, class, writing a girl a note or a girl writing you a note.
Right.
You lost that for years because nobody was in class. It was all virtual. You wasn't in class to interact.
Right.
So you lose a lot of things you would learn, not just on the curriculum, just life things you would learn in the classroom. How to handle embarrassment. You know what I'm saying? How to live vicariously through my mistakes. These things you see in the classroom, not knowing, but you see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You lost that now.
Right.
Because you just had a computer.
And we see it like even as we speak, there's a generation of kids that are coming through our classrooms. We see a stark difference. It's one of the most amazing things. I've been teaching since 2009, and some of the discussions I have with my classes are just telling them how the kids 3 years ago are completely different from you, and then the kids 3 years from that are completely different from you. I think as a society, we kind of think that kids are just the same year after year. They change drastically, and something like COVID, I think, has created a generation like we've never seen before. But I don't blame COVID for that. I feel like what COVID did was expose the problems that we had not addressed before COVID. I think the impact of family structure, the impact of not emphasizing education, allowing so much ignorance in our society. I think when COVID hit, COVID just said, oh, you guys left the door open? Okay, so we're going to come through that door now and take those problems and amplify those problems. It didn't create the situation. It just kind of preyed upon it.
Did you see that before it happened too? Or?
So let me.
Oh, Jesus. I thought you were going to say no and just laugh, but you really did see that, huh?
I did.
So what happened?
This is what I did. This is, I guess this shows the geek in me, right? So I told you I went to Augusta State University, my second year of college, and I had a desk job, just like, sitting here now. I was working in the curriculum center. The curriculum center is kind of like a mini library type setting where nobody comes in all day. You're just kind of sitting there putting names in the computer. So it's just me and the internet for like 5 to 8 hours a day. Okay. So I have plenty of time to think, and I'm still that same kid from Tubman Middle School trying to figure out the world's problems. So
you were still in the SEC? I got you. You ain't
SEC
quit.
was dissolved when we graduated from Tubman, 8th grade. Because we all got spread to different high schools. Some of us, I ended up going to Richmond, and my best friend ended up going to Glen Hills, and it just, But I'm sitting behind that desk, and I'm still thinking about how do we solve these problems? And I said, well, to solve the problems, you have to break down where the problems are coming from. And I just created this chart that it was like a flow chart that showed step by step how our society, suffers from issues, and those issues become amplified. At this point, we talked about, the home. We talked about deficiencies in school. We talked about lack of job opportunities. Talking about religion, the role that religion plays in a lot of these different things. So I literally created a blueprint for how, in my mind, this cycle was perpetuating itself. And I just kind of kept that blueprint with me in the back of my mind as I continued to grow and continued to move through life. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I mean, if you see anything in the future that you feel like I can kind of tap into, let me know. I want to get a heads up if possible, you know. But, you know, so I want to ask about, I know you said you went to Hesper as well, right? Mm-hmm. So you went there because your mom taught there, right? So I was talking before you came in, and the first time I ever saw you, like physically saw you, because you mentioned Hesper, I'm gonna tell you now. First of all, God bless him because he passed away, but a guy named David Brunson.
I don't know.
Okay, I don't know. We and him owned the Gary's, like in 2010, something like that.
Right.
And I think you lent them some money. And I remember I had to meet you in Pepperidge to give you money, to give you whatever back, whatever. And that was my first. I thought you was tall. I was shorter back then, way skinnier. You know, I'm skinny now, but I was skinnier then. And you just was tall with an afro. So I just remember you from that. Then I see you on the cover of a magazine. I don't know if it was Urban Pro Weekly. Was that what it is?
Probably so.
That's crazy.
Right.
That's crazy how stuff works. Because I interviewed Karen. Well, she wasn't part of it back then, of course. But so how'd you get on the cover of Urban Pro Weekly then? Because that was you were on the front, the very, very front, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
I remember I seen it at Balo back then.
I believe, and I'm trying to remember what year that was. I think that was because I published a book. There was a book that I wrote. It was a book of poetry called The Legend of the Number One Pencil. It is available on Amazon, I believe, right now, matter of fact. But I didn't make a big buzz about it because one thing about me, I do these side projects, but I'm not a businessman. So a lot of times I'll start things and not really finish them, so to speak. So I think what it was is that I had just released that book. Somebody caught wind of it from Urban Pro. I want to say that I had actually done some writing for them before they put me on the cover.
Yeah,
of that.
I seen you had articles in there as well. Yeah. I
So,
couldn't find the cover art. I was trying to look. I was gonna have it in here. I couldn't find it. I was gonna have it in here.
I may have a copy of it still. I think I do. But I think that's what it was. And they may have asked me possibly about some educational views too, because I think I also had like glasses back then too. I'm seeing that picture in my head. But I think that's what it was. I think it was the release of the book and just my views on education. They wanted to talk to me in detail about that.
Yeah. So, and I guess my question is like, when did you start to get to that level? So like you writing books and things of that nature. So
that actually happened by accident. Well, I won't say by accident. My mother passed away in 2005.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. When she passed away, I was still at Augusta State University, and that actually kind of prolonged my stay there because I went through a lot of mental things where I just kind of lost motivation and kind of had to pick myself back up to finish school. Part of my process was journaling, but the way that I journaled was by keeping a blog. I used to be like really heavy into blogging, had about like 3 or 4 blog sites, and like those podcasts where you say I just talk about anything off the top of my head, that's what I was doing on the blog sites. Is I would sometimes be at my desk at the curriculum center and just have a thought, and I guess in a sense I was counseling myself. And I would just, if I had an idea for a poem, I'd type it up. If I wanted to share my views on education, I'd type that. If I wanted to share my views on, whatever. And then one day, someone said I should publish a book. And I was like, because I had written some poetry on the side, and I was like, I don't have enough poems to do that. But then I looked at my blog site and I said, actually, I do. If I take some of the stuff off of my sites and put it with the things that I've written on paper, I'll have enough to actually publish a volume. And that's how that book actually ended up coming about. So,
what kind of poems you write? What's your style? What's your
everything? Matter of fact, and shout out to Ken Macon, that was something we were working on when we were younger too, is that we wanted to put together a book of diverse types of poetry. We never quite got it finished, but
y'all know each other from being younger?
Oh yeah. We met through Greater Young Zion Baptist Church. We're both members of that church.
Yeah.
And we hit it off right away. And
Pastor Blunt.
Yeah. Exactly. Greatest pastor in the world.
Why you playing? I say this. You saying it? I say the same thing. I don't go to church. I'm not gonna say it like I do, but the times I've been since I was born. Since like 05.
Right.
The times I've been, I always say I don't know what it is, but when I go there, it's probably the only time I've ever reflected.
Yeah.
Wow. Even there, and then I go home and I reflect.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I like him. And I've always said that. I always told him that. Yeah.
He's amazing, man. And
my kids go there.
Even as a teacher, he's a large part from or has contributed a lot to my success as a teacher because I learned the art of teaching by watching my mother and by watching him. The way that he teaches the Bible is the way I try to teach history to my students. So, shout out to him because he's definitely had an influence.
He's dope. That's funny. That's dope.
Yeah.
So I mean, for Ken, I'm just wanting to talk. How you describe him? What's y'all relationship like, you and Ken? Cause y'all got stuff working on now, right?
See, the thing with him, and I love Ken to death. We go way back. Very headstrong guy. He's a very once he sets his mind to something, it's as good as done, and he's very driven, which is something that I envy. I wish I had that level of drive that he has, because he just goes, and once he sets his mind to getting something done, there's no stopping him. I'm the type, I have ideas, but I often hesitate, and I'm very cautious. I delay, I reflect a lot, like you said. So I'm a very internal type person, and he's the type that he has the idea and just lets it go and just pursues it. He knows how to make connections. He knows how to network. He knows how to do all these things. So I really admire what he's been able to build with his platform and with his other platforms. He's just really admire that guy. Really admire that guy.
Nah, definitely. I like Ken. I shout him out all the time on here. Probably it's too much, honestly. People are like, who the hell is Ken? But that's my guy. I think he's dope, man. He's one of my favorite people to interview too.
He's a generous guy too. Generous guy.
Yeah, real cool, man.
Me and my friends that I grew up with, we're not really gift givers, which sounds crazy. We never used to celebrate each other's birthdays or anything like that. Ken was like the first friend that I had that made it a point. When birthdays come, he's gonna give you something. When Christmas comes, he's gonna make sure he's very giving guy. So shout out to him.
Yeah, shout out to Ken, man. That's what's up, man. So after Augusta State, so what you majored in when you went there?
So I majored in history and minored in sociology.
All right, before I get to the why, what I'm asking though, but why history?
So, okay. Let me run that back. History was what I majored in after I came home from Oglethorpe University. When I first went to school, my major was business. No, I'm sorry. I majored in ministry, and then business was my minor. My family didn't understand how that was going to work. How are you going to make money off of ministry? So I said, fine, I'll take up business as something to, fall back on.
I ain't trying to be funny, but couldn't you just open a church? Or that's not how it works?
I could have.
But ain't that's not making money off ministry, or I'm tripping?
And see, that's the thing. I never knew how the economic structure of ministry worked. This is gonna sound crazy. I'm an anti-money guy. Like that's always been me. I'm really about doing things for passion, doing things because of love, doing things because of true drive. And I don't like the ideas of mixing spirituality and money. I understand, and even Pastor Blunt has taught me, just listening to his sermons, that a church has to pay its bills. You have to keep your lights on. You have to have your basic necessities taken care of. But I just never liked that idea of mixing God and money, or mixing love and money, I do what I do I try to be pure with my intentions, whatever I do. So, but I mean, I'm sure there was ways that I could have made it work, Like I said, I come from a very conservative family, so they're not the type to go out and forge new paths. They're more so the type to find a path that's already there and just find their place in it. And I think that's kind of what they wanted from me. Getting into history was a result of my mom passing away. When she passed away, I was still in school, and we were living at the time. It was just me and my sister and my mom. So the only thing I was thinking of is, how can I get out of school quickly so that I can pay the bills on this house? We were living in a full-blown house with a mortgage. So I was like, I got to get into something quickly so I can afford to pay bills, and education just happened to be it. I had a little bit of teaching experience through my church, had a little bit of teaching experience through Sunday school and things like that. So I felt like that was something I could jump into just to get stable, I guess you could say. So history was what I chose to major in, and sociology was my minor from that point.
Now, all right. So I only stopped because when you said history, I was like, what makes somebody just want to do history? Like, it's not a common thing. But you say you want to teach, but I guess you wanted to teach because you wanted to make some money, and education was there.
Well, I don't know if I mentioned this too. My mother was a history teacher. So
she was a history teacher. Yeah. Okay.
So that was her field.
You mentioned having to work. So was your dad not there anymore? Or?
He was there. What happened was, not to put family business out there, but he and my mom didn't get along. The way they should have. Ended up separating. Never got divorced, but they did separate, and they were living in two different houses. So it was my mom and myself and my sister, and then my dad was living in South Carolina, which he still does to this day.
Okay, cool.
So I just kind of wanted to now that she had passed away, I didn't want to move back to South Carolina. So I just wanted to get stable and independent to be able to stand on my own, in Georgia where we were. So,
and I'm just staying on this topic so we can pass it though. But like, how was it like trying to finish school, dealing with that kind of traumatic experience? Because I know you had to do stuff for things, but at the same time, did you ever get time to mourn in that, or deal with that?
So, and I'm glad you asked that, because I really don't think about that very often. There's a period of my life that's a blur. I just turned 40 this year, and it doesn't feel like it because I feel like there's 10 years of my life that are missing, starting with when she passed away. I remember needing to find income quickly, so I started doing like a night shift. I was working over at Target while I was in school. I remember taking less classes, but paying for those classes. One thing about me is that when I graduated college the first time, I had no debt. I was able to actually pay my whole way through school just by working the night shift, whatnot. I remember being afraid. Like, I don't know if you saw the post I made the other day, but I was talking about how I feel sorry for hoarders. I don't know if you ever watched those TV shows where people, they have all kinds of stuff piled up. Yeah. Not to say I'm a hoarder, but I am cluttered. And a lot of that came out of me dealing with the loss of my mom, because all of a sudden I had all these bills coming in, I had all these different things I had never done before. I'd never been independent. I got scared. For a while. And it was a thing where I was afraid to check my mailbox for a while. I was making money, but I wasn't making enough money to take care of all my responsibilities at that time. So I just got very to where I didn't want to touch anything. I didn't want to, her stuff was still in the house for a long time, and I didn't want to touch it just because I wanted to feel like she was still present. You know what I mean? So I really feel for those people, because I feel like they're all dealing with something in their mind that they're running from, because I know that feeling. I know what it's like to want to leave things as they are or not invest that energy. Imagine you're working the overnight shift, and then you're working on campus, and you're also taking classes. You don't want to spend your excess energy focusing on cleaning up.
I already know. Trust me.
Yeah. So that's kind of where all that came from, I think.
Okay. And then sociology. I took that. I went to AU too, and I graduated from there as well. And I took that class. I don't know if teacher was there at the time you took it, but what made you want to take sociology? I know why I did it, but why you did it?
I did it because I wanted to get out of school quickly.
Same thing. Okay.
Which, and I think this was God moving in my life, because I was looking for a way to get out of school quickly. I had been I think originally my major was history and my minor was secondary education, but it was going to take a long time to get through that secondary education minor. And I said, I have to get money now. So how do I get out of school quickly? They said you can take a different minor and take the GACE pedagogy test, which is a test into education pretty much, and that would square you away. So I think I just kind of randomly picked sociology, but it turned out to be the best pick I ever made. Like, sociology was the classes that I needed to be taking all the time for my conspiracy theory.
You're right. You're right.
That was the fulfillment of the prophecy.
So I was going to say that. So I when I went to AU, I was actually starting accounting. For some reason, high school made me think that I knew numbers, right? Because I had all these math awards. I said, I know numbers, accounting. Took that. I said, I don't know numbers after all. You know what I'm saying? First week, I knew I didn't know numbers.
Right.
But a guy named Todd Powell, shout out to him. I was in his sociology class as just, like you said, just for space, right. And within the first couple of, you ever seen that episode of Fresh Prince where he go to school, where Will's going to school, but he's not really in that class? I forgot the episode name, but he's going to the class, but he's not in that class.
Right.
He kind of dropped it, but then he stayed in the class. And that's how I felt. I felt like that class was everything he was talking about was talking to me. But it made me look at the world differently, because up until that point, I'm still I'm living down here, but I'm from somewhere else, so I still got a lot of that in me, and I'm just I'm not wanting to change at all. I just like being who I was at 13, 14, 15.
Right.
And here I am, 20, with a kid on the way, and I'm like, it's making me change the way I look at the world.
Right.
Making me question things. That's what sociology does. You studying everything. Why is this happening?
Right.
So that why is important. I feel like until you take courses like that, and you never question why, you don't care about why.
Right.
And then being in that class with AU was it's not a lot of us, so at least it wasn't at the time I went, and just being around a bunch of different ethnicities.
Right.
I learned a lot in that class just from attending class, you know. So it made me want to change my major. And then like you, I went to criminal justice just because it was quicker. I needed money then, and I wanted to finish school because I had a kid in the way. But yeah, sociology. And when you was talking about Tubman, I thought about that. So he must be a sociology major.
Right.
I just thought that automatically. I thought you were just going to grow up to be one, and that it fit you. It fit that whatever sociology is. Like what you said about Tubman is a perfect definition of sociology.
Yeah. It was already there.
Perfect. So yeah, man. So you know a lot about a lot of stuff, man. I want to talk about just teaching and let's talk about teaching for a little bit. So, did you start off just regular teaching? Or you started subbing first. How did that work for you?
Okay, so my very first teaching job,
Tubman.
You know what? I'm going to leave that part out. No, actually, we'll say it. My very first teaching experience was in high school, while I was still in high school.
All right.
Yeah. What happened? We had a Latin teacher who had a meltdown in the middle of the year and left us, kind of abandoned. At the time, I was taking Latin 3, and there were not enough Latin 3 students in the county to make like a real class out of it. And we also had Latin 2 students. So what they did was they took the Latin 3 student and made him turn around and teach the Latin 2 students. And that was my first ever teaching gig. After that, being in the church, my next teaching gig was being a Sunday school teacher. Okay. Again, being a teenager, teaching other teenagers. Just because I was paying attention to class and I understood the Bible. Well, I won't say, let me be careful about that. I was well read in the Bible. I'll never say I understand it because there's some things I'm still trying to understand now. And I love God. I'm a Christian, but there's some things I don't understand. So I ended up teaching Sunday school there for, I want to say like 10 years or something like that. Then I ended up getting into the high schools, like I said, by testing into it, by completing the sociology minor, the history major, and then taking the GACE exam. I passed it, no problem. I got hired at HEFSPA High School. This is the school where I teach now. Almost had a chance to go to Josie, almost. The former assistant principal from HEFSPA had just become the principal over at Josie, and he heard about me coming out of school, and he gave me a chance to get there. But once that opportunity opened up at the school I just graduated from, I said, let me go where I know everybody and where I feel comfortable. So that's how I got into education. It was the year Barack Obama got elected. And I remember this because that January it snowed.
It sure did.
And I came in. I didn't come at the beginning of the school year. I came in the middle of the school year, which was a challenge in and of itself because I didn't have a chance to set up. I didn't have a chance to get comfortable. I didn't know who my kids were. They threw me in and I started swimming. And the rest of it was history. So, but
I asked that question because a lot of the kids that I have spoken to or mentioned you, they all spoke good things about you though. Like for the most part, never nothing. Most times you hear somebody say this person like this, person like that. Everybody liked you, for the most part. So I don't know if they showed it in class. Cause sometimes kids be different in class, but in talking, they always spoke well of you. Like he know a lot, or he cool, or he taught me this and stuff like that. So you got a good reputation as far as with the students on teaching. Why don't you have a podcast though? Like I'm curious to that because you speak. I mean, I know you go live here and there, and you go for a long time sometimes. But why don't you have? I feel like you got a lot of knowledge that you can do it on a probably weekly, daily basis, probably.
I've considered it, man. I really have considered it.
What's holding you back? Because see, you said earlier you have these thoughts and then you don't start.
Yeah.
So what you don't know about me is I like to challenge people. I'm trying to figure out now why you can't do it. So what's holding you back from podcasting?
So what's holding me back from podcasting? I think my job is part of it because, of course, you say the wrong thing in podcasting while you're working for a school board and you can be in trouble about that. I have a lot of educational critiques and I don't want to come off as, criticizing my administration or, throwing colleagues under the bus or putting out personal information about students or ever attacking a student. I'm pretty good at side.
I was gonna say those are all things you've never done on your platform. Yeah. So
it's funny. Like I actually counted how many videos I did during that period. I did like 119 videos.
Yeah, you was wild. You was doing a lot. Every time I got on Facebook, you was live. Yeah. This man asleep.
In that 119, I never said anything that was out of pocket. Like I know what I can and can't do, which would make me. I mean, I probably should do a podcast because of that. But it's the caution there, and then not knowing what topic to really focus on, because I could talk about education a lot has changed in education, man. I had some views about education, which I still hold, but because of COVID, the landscape of education has changed dramatically. And somebody that works for the board recently was telling me about some things coming down the pipe. It's going to change again, like very soon. It's going to be a very drastic change. So I kind of feel like by the time I get a podcast up and going, that things will have already shifted into a completely different direction. So,
all right, I hear the excuse. I'm gonna tell you what they said to me. I'm gonna read it. It says everything he says is interesting, versatile, and empathetic conversationalist. This is a direct quote from Kim Macon. All right. Kim believes that you can do a podcast, man. You know, and I honestly think what I took from that is you can talk anything. I think you could. I think it's any topic I think you can talk about.
Really?
Yeah. So you don't have to talk about education. After you could do everything except education.
What do you see me doing? Like, if I was to do a podcast, what do you think?
So it could be educational without talking about education. Cause I feel like anything you say, you can educate someone. So whether it's sociology, whether it's topics in sociology that we talk about, but we don't really delve into.
Right.
You know, you can actually you can hold your own course online if you wanted to without getting into none of the other stuff. History, you do history all the time, right? You can talk about that without talking about school stuff. Yeah. And your colleagues, anything like that. You can just talk about it from a different perspective, or you can go more in depth than you would in your classroom.
Right.
Or you can have an AP, I don't know, history, whatever you want to do. But anything you talk about, I'm pretty sure you can do and you do well.
Thank you.
I mean, I watched you talk for three or four. It was like 3 or 4. I'm not exaggerating. It was like 3 or 4 hours, and it was like just different things. You had no set criteria. You just like y'all throw it at me, and they were throwing at you, and you just was talking.
Yeah. And I guess, that's part of the problem. I do fear exhaustion. I think that I want to find something that once I start it, I'm going to want to stick with it, because a lot of topics that I bring.
I'll say this, you also said earlier that you like to do things for a passion of it. So if you got a passion for it, that's cool. I'm the same way. Like I like doing it, and money do come from. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not doing it for those reasons. Doing I like doing it. And I find that to be the most successful thing I can do, because I'm doing it because I want to do it.
Right.
And I run it the way I want it, And I think you can do the same thing. That's all I'm saying. So I'm gonna ask you something that Ken told me to ask you, and we can see if we want to talk about that. It says, ask him how he feels about the online gender wars.
Online agenda?
Gender.
Okay, gender. Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate it.
Hey, Ken knows stuff, man.
I stay away from all that foolishness, man.
I see.
Yeah. If you ever follow me online, I talk all the time. Well, I post statuses all the time. I never post statuses about men and women. Never. There was a period like early in my life where I might have done something like that, like while I was still in college trying to figure it out. But now I see that we're at war with each other. And it's really a terrible thing that we've fallen into, where nobody's really concerned about doing what's right. Everybody's concerned about being right, or being, considered. I have this saying, and this came from me just sitting and reflecting. When there's love and when there's trust, we're not concerned about power, right? Like, think about, if you go to a family gathering, you don't bring a weapon with you to a family gathering because you know everybody there. Right. They're there to love you, hopefully. I'm assuming. They're there to love you. They're not going to harm you, so forth and so on. You only take weapons to places where you feel like you have adversaries. And what we're seeing between men and women right now is just a lot of adversarial exchanges, because there's no trust. And it could be because of bad relationships. It could be because of abuse. Everybody wants to establish their power and win the argument to say, I'm justified, and calling myself the victim and calling you the aggressor. Lots of generalizing. From sociology, that sociology is built on generalizing. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of all men are this and all women are that. And anytime you're talking in absolutes and using a generalization that big, you're wrong, because there's no way that everybody fits that description. But again, people are not interested in what's right. They're interested in validating themselves. So I stay away from it, because to me, it's a circular argument that nobody wants to get specific about, because if you get specific, then you have to take accountability. And nobody wants to be in a position to have to take accountability. Nobody wants to say that both sides can be wrong. Nobody wants to say that just because something has happened to you does not mean that everyone was involved in that. If someone attacks you, I see this all the time. I'm going to get a little bit away from gender here, but I see this all the time in school when I see older people talk about the younger generation. What's wrong with these kids nowadays? You're looking at a handful of kids who are misbehaving and totally ignoring all these other kids over here who are doing what they're supposed to do. And that's what I see in the gender battles is somebody gets mistreated by a man or somebody gets mistreated by a woman. What's wrong with men nowadays? What's wrong with women nowadays? And they're totally ignoring all these other people over here who've done nothing to them. And I feel like getting into those discussions just takes that energy and projects it on people who have done nothing to you. Which just makes the situation worse because then those people are going to defend themselves. I'm not going to sit here, if I've done nothing to you and you start accusing me of something, I'm going to, put up my dukes and defend myself. Why would I let you just badmouth me, So I try to avoid that entire conversation. And I think our society needs a period of healing. Maybe that's what it takes. Maybe we need to just have a day where we declare, hey, let's call all this relationship stuff off for a year, 2 years.
Hey, I already tried that. It didn't work. And yeah, we supposed to do the first 30 days and they just went crazy on January 7th. So we just said.
But I mean like for an extended period. Like just because we understand the concept of being healthy enough to get into a relationship. But what if none of us is healthy enough to get into relationships? Just looking at how eager we are to spit venom at each other and to tear each other down. I see people online right now who their only purpose in being online is to wait until somebody says something about their gender so they can jump in and throw a rebuttal. Like that's the only reason they're online. They have no thoughts of their own. They have no wonderful things they want to share. It's just literally, I can't wait till somebody says something bad about my gender.
Hey, I think they look around just like you did. Yeah. I promise you they do. Because I say the same. Then I be saying the same thing every. I don't know what it is. It's the same people all the time.
And I think my superpower is I don't care. Like when I see people say something about us, I'm like, so obviously this person's hurt. I could be playing Street Fighter right now, and I disappear. Like I can't feed into it, man. And I think we all need to stop feeding into it. We have to, or it's just going to continue to accelerate. And our kids are, I kid you not, one of the most interesting things I see as a teacher is when that stuff that's going on between adults has been internalized in kids that are 12 years old, 13 years old, 14, 15, 16. They don't understand what's going on, but they feel it and they know how to internalize it to where you hear them saying the same things that these adults are saying in the hallway. And I'm like, you don't even drive yet. You can't leave your house. You don't have a job. How are you, talking about men don't make enough nowadays and men don't just like.
That's funny.
Seriously,
like I never thought about it that way though. That's funny as hell.
It's dangerous, sick, man. Because then what's going to happen is they're going to become adults, and before they even have a chance to get into a meaningful relationship, they're already mad at somebody that they've never met. Like it's funny, but it should be terrifying. Like because these are real human beings who are really going to graduate and really going to meet people and really going to try to get married and really have their own babies and really project those thoughts on their babies. And then their babies are going to grow up and become the same thing. Like that should terrify each one of us. But we just jump into it and enjoy it, man. And I'm like, I can't co-sign that. I really can't,
Yo, that was Ken. Shout out to Ken. Cover up one time. Shout out to Ken for giving me that topic. You hit it really good. Like that was good. Like what you said. I feel like you said the same thing a lot of people want to say. You just said it in a very elegant way, of course.
Thanks.
But yeah, I do feel like right now in this era we in, I don't even say social media era because social media been around for a while now. But it's a very advanced social media era. I'll say maybe even a podcast era. Which, teach his own, do your thing. But I think also that microphone you're looking at, you're talking to right now, is also a cause of that as well because a lot of people like to talk about that. So just like how you're having thoughts of maybe you shouldn't or should do a podcast, and you got the knowledge up here, you got good stuff that people need to hear. Somebody else is like not thinking twice about it, going to buy that microphone, going to buy that camera, going to buy that and say, all right, let me tell you why these boys ain't nothing. Let me tell you why these girls ain't. Let me tell you what you need to do to be a better woman.
Right.
Like somebody telling you they had no knowledge of this at all.
Right.
And honestly, that's our news now. That is our source of. You a teacher, so you do a paper. You got to source your material. Imagine that. Right. Imagine if you had to source your stuff on arguments. Where you get this from?
Nobody sources anything.
Who's gonna say? I don't know the podcast name, but them other podcasts that all they talk about is why women ain't this, why men ain't that. Those aren't sources.
Right.
That's a guy with another idea. That's a woman with another idea. That's just what it is. But that's the era we in right now.
Right.
And I've seen people telling me like, I say the rapper. I don't know if you know the rapper. It's a guy named Melly, Wanda Melly, whatever.
Right.
And he has a murder trial right now. But there's hip hop, I guess, media like covering the case, and people are saying no. Academics said this. So who is this guy? He has no background in criminal justice at all.
Right.
I haven't. I watch him sometimes. I'm like, that's not true.
Right.
That's Florida. They don't work in that state. Or, it's like so many different things they don't know. But this is our news. This is our encyclopedia.
Right.
Well, not our, but some people's encyclopedia now.
Right.
And that's just what we're living in right now. So I don't know how to, as a teacher, like how do you deal with that? How do you feel, or how can you combat students like, or your people that you have to teach thinking they know it all because they went to YouTube yesterday?
See, here's the thing though, and this is. Social media has really changed the game in education, especially for history teachers, because we know that education is broken and we know that everything that we teach is not necessarily accurate. So what things like TikTok and social media have done is they've opened the door for the information that's been left out of education to now be incorporated. Because I do get those questions. Some of my favorite students right now are kids who, when I'm in class, I'm teaching something and they'll raise their hand and say, is it true that da-da-da-da-da-da happened? And I have to address that, and it's not going to be addressed in their textbook, and it's not going to be addressed in their standards or whatnot. I love it, man. Now, they're getting some bad information, but number one, sometimes their textbooks are bad information. True. So it's not like social media suddenly is just all the bad information in the world. It's another source that needs to be referenced, research. What we try to teach our kids is whatever source you come across, find a way to research that source to see if it's accurate, because it could be telling you something wrong. And it could be the textbook or it could be social media. So I don't see social media as the enemy in that regard. I have some colleagues that get on social media all the time and they complain about, the idiot generation that is allowing social media to be more important than science. And I'm like, I hear what you're saying. Science should be elevated higher than that because you have peer-reviewed articles and they've done the experiments and whatnot. But what's wrong with the person asking a question? If they ask a question and you have a response for that question that you can prove otherwise, prove them otherwise. But don't tell them not to ask questions. Tell them to, okay, you have a question. Let me see if I can answer that for you. Let me show you the research. Go read this book. Go check out this experiment. But don't just tell them, don't bring that in here. Bring it in and let's see if it's true or not.
You brought up a good point about the textbooks being wrong as well, or giving out, I guess, a certain kind of information as well, just like YouTube. Only difference I would see is though, I think it's like a national thing or whatever, worldwide thing, but people are willing to watch something versus read something.
Oh yeah.
So in the textbook, it's hidden, kinda, sort of. People going to rabbit holes on YouTube, man.
That's very true.
I've seen people really change just from YouTube.com. Like they really have changed. Like I've seen people change religion and everything. I'm no disrespect, but they changed all that stuff because they had seen 10, 7 videos in a row. And it's like, hey, look, it gotta be real.
Right.
Like when I was younger, because it's gradual, it's gradual. When I was younger, I've always been the type of person like, I ain't trying to hear that, bro. Like, I don't want to hear, if you got conspiracy, I'm not gonna lie. I'm cool with that. That's what's up. Don't tell me.
Right.
You can tell me. Man, you can tell me. I'm not listening though. I'm gonna tell you right now. That's crazy. About 3 of those.
Right. That's crazy. Yeah.
I hope you get the picture by then. Sometimes they don't get it. But yeah, so that's always been me. And I think that even what you're saying, as far as it being in a book, I think that's true as well. It's just it's more accessible now because you can go to a YouTube video by mistake.
Right.
You gotta pick that book up, check it out, or really open it and read pages. That's a choice, but you can find a video on accident and go down a rabbit hole. Like, what's this about? And you go down that and it's a wrap.
I got to say this. One of the most interesting things I've noticed as a teacher at this point is YouTube has done a fantastic job of teaching teachers how to teach vocabulary, because people who normally would not be able to say a 5-syllable word or spell a 5-syllable word throw the word narcissist around.
Oh boy.
Oh my God.
Heard that today and I'm like, this is mental health. What are we talking about this for?
Any concept that becomes hot on social media raises the vocabulary of everybody overnight. Like overnight, everybody is a narcissist now.
I try my best not to, but it was in my whole body. I really wanted to be asking people, please define that for me right now.
Yeah.
Just define.
Tell me the history of the word.
I already know they not to disrespect nobody, because I'm cool. Because you might have heard it wrong and you're using it wrong.
Right.
So that's cool. But I know you know what it means, because you're saying it out of context anyway.
Right.
So you ever heard somebody saying like, what are you talking about? That don't make no sense. You know what I'm saying? It don't make no sense.
Right.
So, I'm with you on that. I think that I chalk it up to, okay, well, they just found something new online, so it's fine. And I get it, it's cool. I have enough problems with this. I don't want to never be like, make somebody feel like they don't know what's up, or they don't know nothing, because that's how you get that bad reputation of just trying to know it all. So I'll just try to, I get you. I'll beat that. It's fine for the day, But with teaching, right, and within this new social media era, though, what are some positives from it? I hear a lot of negatives from it. Right. What are some, before I get to that, I'm sorry, teaching and social media, let's talk about that. I know a lot of teachers, and normally I talk to the ones I know, they teach younger kids, whatever, but I have teachers I know that constantly do get in trouble because they post them on social media.
Right.
And I don't think it's nothing they posted that's bad. I think that people forget there's people that know where you work, that know that, it's the board ed.
Right.
What board ed, And I've seen for teachers, they have to make their page private for a long time, or they just have to shut their page down for a couple months or whatever the case may be. Is that tough for you, or that tough for that field? Because y'all don't get the same right. Like I might can go online and say whatever I want to say right now.
Right.
I probably shouldn't, but I probably could. And I go work tomorrow and it's fine.
It's tough, man. I've been hoping that at some point there will be a civil rights case where they say that your online life should be off limits to the professional world. I truly do feel like that's unfair. Keeping in mind that when social media got started, it had nothing to do with the professional world. Apart from, it used to be confined to just people of a certain age. College students and professionals were the ones who were on it. But it wasn't a thing where you were going online to find out if a person is worthy to be hired, or to criticize them for what they do in their leisure time. I do feel like that's a civil rights violation. Me, myself, I remember when I first got into education, I got all the warnings. All my cousins who, they're going to always look out for their little cousin. They were like, you need to be careful, man, when you get online. I was like, I know. I've never made my page private. I have limited who has access to my page. And I am careful about what I put on there. Those of you who really know me, I'm a music head. Like, I'm really, really big on music. And I would say 90% of the music I listen to, I don't post on my page, because a lot of it does have the profanity and have the drug paraphernalia references or whatnot. And I'm aware that can get me in trouble. I'm aware that I have to be careful with and I think I told you this before we started interviewing, my racial views. Got to be careful when talking about, oddly enough, what actually happened in history. You can't just go out there and say what actually happened in history. You might get fired for that now. It's funny. I told. Well, I don't want to get too far off your question. You asked me how has social media had a positive influence on education. I'll say that the connection between students and teachers in terms of taking the classroom outside of the classroom has been positive. They have this app now called Remind, where you can constantly get notification updates from your teacher about assignments, about projects, about if you have a field trip coming up, you're trying to start a fundraiser or something like that. So schools have been smart to try to create an academically based form of social media, which is a lot safer, I guess you can say, than just a wide open Facebook or a wide open Instagram. Some teachers have been able to take things like TikToks and use them to educate kids. I've also seen where some teachers have gone to TikTok to voice their concerns about education, which can be a positive or a negative depending on how it's received. It's a good way to let the community know what it's really like in the classroom, but it's also a way to get yourself in trouble if you're saying the wrong thing or saying the right thing the wrong way sometimes, because some of them get on there and they fire off, like really fire off, and they get fired off. So yeah, like I think I'll say this too. COVID really threw a monkey wrench in the situation, because it made schools have to rely on a certain level of social media, because all of a sudden brick and mortar schools are getting shut down because of the virus. Kids are being sent home. Well, we don't want them just sitting home doing nothing. So they start using online learning to reach out to kids. A teacher, I've done this a couple of times where I'll record a video of myself giving a lecture and then post that lecture up and let my kids watch. Now, realistically, I love my kids. They're not going to watch. They're not. They might watch if they think I'm going to say something interesting, but if it's 6 o'clock a.m. and they're supposed to report to class online at 6 o'clock a.m., the computer's not coming on. It's not happening. But we had to innovate and use social media to our advantage to keep education going during that time period. It's been beneficial for kids who are introverts, the ones who don't like being in a classroom environment and don't like being around people. They can do the homeschool thing now because of social media. So it hasn't been the worst thing, but it has its positives and it has its negatives. Overall, I much prefer old school education. I do. If I could take social media out of the classroom, and some people aren't going to like me saying it, but I would do it. I would, because I remember what school was like before, and I feel like our kids don't have the level of responsibility to have access to those types of tools when it comes to learning. Like if you have a tool that powerful, you have to be able to say, okay, let me set this aside and finish my work before I get back on this. Or, I don't know, I think it's great for college students. I think it has applications, but I think if your student body isn't mature enough, that it can do more damage than help.
Right.
Yeah, so.
This is still on the educational side, but this is something from Jarrell. So I reached out to him. He said, asked him about education and the drawing of district lines that directs property taxes funding from schools that really need it. Case in point, all those nice neighborhoods in Gordon Highway, 10 minutes from Glen Hills, gets bused all the way to Richmond and West Side.
So I will not say I'm an expert on that, but I know what he's talking about.
We knew you knew. We knew you knew though. I guess we knew that. We knew
you
that.
said that was Jarrell?
Yeah.
That's cuz. How's it going? So here's the thing. I do understand that the amount of money that schools get does depend on property tax. So of course neighborhoods that are well-to-do tend to have schools that, benefit from that. Me personally, the issue that I've had is less about property tax and more about testing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to, are you aware of No Child Left Behind? I feel like, and I call that legislation the snake bite, that bit education. Because what happened is they said schools that test well are going to be the schools that get funding, and schools that don't test so well are going to be the schools that lose funding. But if you think about what that means that the schools that have a need to help their students because their students are struggling are not going to get the assistance. And the schools that are already doing well are going to get extra assistance. I remember there was a story years ago, and you might remember this, where there was this huge Atlanta cheating scandal. Yeah. What it's all about is what I just said. If the kids do well on standardized testing back then, I think the policy has changed now, your schools will get more funding. So if I know that my students are struggling, I got to find a way to help them do well on this test, or we're going to lose funding. That's what those teachers were cheating about. And that's the reason that they ended up having to go through the process of a court system. And I think they were sentenced, if I'm not mistaken, because what you're doing is you're messing with federal money.
Not to cut you up, but so real quick, they did the cheating not because they like the students. It's more so they want the funding.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. It's all about tough. Yeah, because that's a
tough decision, man. To morally to make. Like, do we bring funding to a school that needs funding? Because maybe with the funding we can get better standardized test scores. I don't know, but
that's how it's supposed to work.
That's rough.
And that's the predicament that they put teachers in.
Who told on them?
I don't know. I was glad I wasn't involved.
This is Atlanta, right?
This was Atlanta. It was Atlanta. Matter of fact, back when I used to blog, that was something I blogged about, and that actually became my most popular article that I've ever written to this day when I released that. Because what I said was, not that they did the right thing, they did the wrong thing for the right reason. And I talked about how No Child Left Behind has put teachers in that predicament of, I'm not going to get the resources that I need unless I find a way around this loophole or whatnot. So yeah, they went in and I think they like erased answers on the test or something like that. And I could go off about
that. I mean, I know it's the wrong reason. I get it. I get the right thing. I mean, the wrong thing, right reason.
Right.
It's wrong. I don't know. I don't know
it's crazy.
I can't talk anyway. So, but you know the amount of dedication it takes to make that decision and say, I'm gonna go through with this. Like you could, as an individual, you don't need it, but you like the school needs this. That's tough.
It is.
That is tough.
I wish people understood these forces that are always at work.
You think they home now? They think somebody can interview them? I want to interview them and see, like, I want to interview somebody from that and see exactly like what was going through their mind. I want to know more details about the small details, the stuff that matters, you know?
It's worthwhile. I think it's worthwhile to find them. Now,
there got to be a documentary or something on there, Netflix or something.
I don't know if No Child Left Behind is still in progress. I want to say Race to the Top became the new No Child Left Behind. I'm not going to lie to you. After a certain point, I just got disillusioned and stopped keeping up. That's how I survive. Sometimes I just tune stuff out. But yeah, man, like going back to your property value, that's the type of stuff that dictates the resources that schools get. But I have to say this. When I first started teaching, they were just introducing smart boards at our school. I didn't want a smart board. I felt like I could teach my kids. If you just give me a piece of chalk and give me paper and give me pencils and the basic necessities, I can teach these kids. And I feel like that's something that education has gotten away from. Like,
smart board is a marker, I guess.
Smart boards is like the you know how like what do you call it? On the Weather Channel, you have like the board behind you that you can manipulate and move the map around and things like that.
On the Weather Channel, yeah.
Yeah.
I ain't never been to school that did that. I graduated in 08, so I don't know if that happened after that or what. I don't know.
Yeah, we have it now. It's just a big
So when
board.
It came out, like what year? 13, 12?
I started in 2009. I got my smart board probably like in 2011.
I wasn't in school no more. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All it is it's a whiteboard like that, but it takes up like the whole wall and it acts like your chalkboard, but you can do things like pull up the internet. Yeah. So
I've never seen that before.
You can show movies to your kids on it. You can draw pictures on it. You can play games.
They don't do projection screens no more?
That's what it is. It's a projection screen without a projector. Or actually they have some projectors now where the projector can show on the screen and you can write or interact with the screen.
What?
Yeah, we got all kinds of technology now, man. All kinds.
What school? Well, I know, don't say school. Okay. I gotta go to somebody's school and try this out.
But isn't it funny though that we have these things and our scores are still dropping? And that's kind of my point, is that I think it's wonderful to have those tools, but if you don't understand how education is supposed to work, it's not going to help you. And I think we don't understand how education is supposed to work anymore. So having all those resources doesn't do anything for us. It's a room full of distracted people.
Just bring the chalk back. I used to like that in school. I used to like the teacher pick on you to clean the chalkboard. I was like, oh yeah, a smart board. Can you erase that? Like what you do with the smart board? Like
you can, yeah. It acts just like a computer.
It's
screen.
A button, or like you just actually do it. Like you wave your hand.
This laptop right here, does it have a touch screen?
No.
Okay, it's just like a laptop with a touch screen, except that your touch screen is the whole wall.
Okay.
Yeah. So
all right.
You can type on it the whole.
It sounds expensive. I tell you that.
Yeah, it is. Now think about what that money could have been put toward had it not been put toward that. You see what I'm saying? Like I feel like we've always
maybe tutors.
Say they are.
Maybe tutors like
tutoring.
That probably needed more than that actual smart board, but you know.
And that's my thing, is that I think because we don't understand education, we have all the resources we need, but we misplace those resources.
I mean, are they getting through the lesson quicker on a smart board or something like that? I'm like what was the point? I guess because sometimes I know they bring stuff out and it's and like anything you do, they bring a new policy, a new thing out. It's like, this is where we going. This is the reason why. So like, what was the reason they needed the smart board?
Oh man, to be at the time, I don't know. What I will say is that it replaces the function of a lot of other things in the classroom. So for instance, if you're a history teacher, you remember how your history teacher used to have that big map in the classroom?
Yeah.
You don't need that anymore because you can just use the smart board and pull the map up on the screen from Google.
Okay. Well, I mean, I like that, I guess.
Yeah.
Sometimes you pull it down and go back up, you know? So
right.
I get that. But that's just one thing. I don't
Yeah.
like, I can live with that. You know what I'm saying? Just pull it back down again. All right. Well, hey, somebody somewhere thought that was a good idea, so I'm cool with it. All right, smart board. That is why I gotta see one of them. I never saw one before.
Yeah. This is not a big deal, but
I bet I'm sure it's not.
Feel free. I mean, this year if you want to come to my classroom and check it out, like feel free.
Yeah, definitely. I gotta come there.
Yeah.
I gotta come there and watch you teach the class now.
Sure.
I feel like I gotta get the full effect. I don't want to look at it. I want you to see you writing and everything.
Yeah, you'll enjoy it, man. Feel free. Just let me know today and I'll talk to my principal.
That's crazy.
Cool with him. Come on up.
I mean, I ain't gonna get into that. I just like the chalk. I like the chalkboard. I like other things that will happen with the chalkboard. I like that, but I guess So is it a marker at all? Like, or you just use your pen,
like a little
it's like a phone,
stylus pen. Yeah,
like
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's dope.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. So moving on from that, though, back to the funding and stuff like that. So like, how many things or topics or whatever affects where funding goes? So we talking about buses. We talking about you getting to pick different schools you're going to versus going to where you zone and stuff like that. What all affects that now? Because I know it's not like it used to be back in the day.
It's complex, man. It's one of those things that I've kind of stopped paying attention to. It's not that I try to be uninformed, but sometimes just for preservation's sake, I look at things and say, what does this have to do with me? This is honestly, because my job is to make sure my kids know the material, to make sure they understand history, to make sure that I don't lose my mind, make sure I'm talking to these parents and that coming up with great assignments and doing my necessary research. So sometimes when it gets into the nuts and bolts of the funding, I don't really follow it. I just know property tax has a lot to do with it. I know that government policy like No Child Left Behind has to do with it. I know right now that we are facing a shortage because you mentioned buses, and I was thinking about how right now they're struggling to find bus drivers. They're struggling to keep teachers. We have a very high turnover rate right now of a lot of shifts in leadership. One thing that, and I'm not sure if this is your experience, when you were in school, I want to say, did you have teachers and administrators that tended to stick around for years and years?
Yeah.
That's how
they never left.
Yeah.
They never left.
Right. Now they leave yearly. Like the principal I have now, I want to say has been the principal that's been at my school for the longest time in the last 10 years. It's been like high turnover rate. And I feel like that hurts the kids. Like one thing you learn in child psychology is that children in their developmental stages respond to consistency. If you're not there for an extended period, they're not building a bond with you.
Right.
You're not, getting your feet wet in the community. And I see all the time people are just up and leaving. And God bless them. This is one of the things I'm trying not to get fired here. God bless them for being able to do that. But what does that mean to kids who have unstable homes where they don't even have consistency in their own four walls when they come to school and these teachers that they get attached to are gone now? You know what I mean? Like that really, I think about that a lot. I never will forget the brief time that I worked with the YMCA because I was doing the primetime program. This is in between my first stint teaching and my current stint teaching. Had a program over at an elementary school. The program was too small. They had to shut it down. So I ended up substitute teaching, and I was substitute teaching over at the literacy center over off of Washington Road. Walking down the hall, minding my business, I look up and I see one of my former students from the primetime program. She looks up and sees me, and she just comes running down the hallway, almost crying, and just grabs me because I think out of all the people in her life, I was the most consistent person in her life for about 2 years. And she's just not used to having that consistency. And I was like, it hurt me because I can't come back. Like I can't, just pick that program up again. So, I'll see you here and I'm so glad to see you and I'm wishing you the best, but I'm about to leave again. You know what I mean? And I know that hurts kids on a developmental level. So I hate seeing so many education professionals bouncing around from place to place, because what is that doing to the kids who are trying to build with you? Like that's a real thing for me. That's why people keep asking me, my kids are terrified that I'm going to leave. And I keep telling them I have no intention of leaving my school whatsoever. Number one, because I know what it does to them, but number two, just because I love my school. But, I really wish I would just see less of that. I need my education professionals to, if you're watching this, stay where you are. Those kids are depending on you to stick it through. I know it's rough, but when you leave and they're still developing, they're looking for something permanent to hold on to, and we're not giving it to them. So I understand why we do it, but, I just wish that we would, find it within ourselves to stick around.
Is there still, I know at one point there were a shortage of male teachers?
There is, and I'm sorry I got so excited right there because I thought about this. One of the wonderful things.
Yeah, you
about
got kind
my
of loud. I was like, what's going on?
I'm proud of my school, man, because I feel like at my school we actually had a healthy amount of male presence, a black male presence too. You know, whites as well. But for all the years I've been teaching, I want to say for the last 2 years we've had the strongest African American male presence I've ever seen. And I was going to say not just coaches, but a lot of them are coaches. They're coaches and they're classroom teachers.
I think I know you teach that now, so that's good. Okay, I got it. Now I'm following. Okay, makes sense.
But it's been cool because kids have been able to see a wide variety of black males. And I think that's important because often we only see the coach or we only see the professor. We don't see, you know, the creative teacher. It blew my kids' minds a couple of years ago. I drew some pictures because I always get along with art teachers no matter what because I love drawing. So I had some free time and I drew some stuff and showed it to my kids, and they had never seen, you know, a black male teacher that can draw. And I was showing the stuff to the art teacher, and they were like, you know, Miss so-and-so, can you come see, look what Mr. Williams did. So they see this variety that lets them know, hey, you don't have to be this type of black male teacher, or you don't have to be a teacher at all. But you don't have to be this type of person. You can be this type of person, or you can be that type of person. We had that, and I wish we even had a guy that was, where was he from? He was from, I want to say France, African guy, but spoke French and had a French accent, taught French at the school, just to add even more to the diversity, because I'm sure they never saw that before. So that's my school. I can't speak for every other school out there, but for a while we had it, man. We had. And you can see how passionate I am about staff. Yeah. Like it hurts me that so many of our teachers have left because we really had the formula for a great, dynamic, diverse staff of teachers and staff, and things are changing. You know?
I mean, I would definitely say everything we talked about, I kind of can sense, I can see where the passion was at in it. So, and then I can see where the caution was at in some things. So, right. You know, we move on from there. But I know music. You say you like music.
Yeah, love it.
All right, so you're 99. You graduated 99. So, music, right? Wait, what do you think about today's music versus when you was in high school, when you came out of school? You said 99, so 99 DMX.
Yeah. So 98, I was at Richmond Academy. I was in the 10th grade. That was the year that Aquemini came out for Outkast. Huge Outkast fan, man. I love Outkast. I graduated in 2001, so I came up in the end of the shiny suit era when Puff Daddy came on the scene.
Yeah, and all that. So you graduated 01, okay.
Yeah, I graduated 01, right. Okay. Today's music, man, I try not to be one of these old head haters. I feel
like you're about to be it though, but go ahead. I feel like you saying that is telling me you're about to be it, but there's nothing wrong with that. I want you. I might feel just like you. So,
okay. Well, first of all, I can't be an old head hater because I'm sorry, I've stopped listening as hard as I used to. There are certain acts that I pay attention to. Like I believe it or not, I love Ray Shrimmer. Because Ray Shrimmer's music doesn't sound like anybody else's music out there. And that's one thing that I look for is originality. So if you're one of these guys out here that's talking about popping pill, blah, 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 I know that's terrible stuff. But if you do it in a unique way, I still might listen to you. Because think about it. Growing up in the 90s, we had gangster rap, right?
Right.
I don't believe in gangster lifestyle. I don't believe in shooting up houses and stuff like that. But Dr. Dre is a phenomenal producer. DJ Quick is a phenomenal producer. Warren G is a phenomenal producer. So if your stuff is well put together, I'll still listen to you, even though I don't like what you're saying. I can do that with nowadays music, but I need your production to be immaculate. There's got to be something there that I'm hearing in your sound that I don't hear in all these other people's sounds. So if you're going to talk about this negative stuff, there's got to be something musically pleasing behind it, not just a dope drum and some synths. To me, that's easy to make. But if you have something like a unique cadence on a beat, I thought it was creative. People like DaBaby when they started rapping off beat. Like it took me a while to get used to it, but that's innovative. That's different, you know. And there's a system to it. They're not just randomly saying words on a track, but they are putting it in a certain way where it's gonna musically be pleasant. And I think there's an art to that. So there's certain music nowadays I listen to. I love SZA. SZA, I feel like, is avant-garde when it comes to R&B. I think she,
I like SZA.
yeah, she's controversial as heck, but sometimes that's what an artist is. I always think about music in terms of like being an art form, and I always think about like painters. You know how painters throughout history, some of them were controversial. Some of them used to do things like paint gore, paint nudity, paint violence, paint abstract things. I think that musicians have to have that freedom to create different things too, as long as it's not going to an extreme. And I do think, don't get me wrong, we have our extremes. But if I can tell that there's a true artist behind that extremity, I'll give a chance to listen to it.
You mentioned SZA. It's funny you mentioned it because I've listened to I listen to her all the time. Don't get me wrong, but I listened to her more in the last month for whatever reason. It's been on my iTunes got this thing called For You, and she's always in there now for some reason. So I listen to it, you know. Right. And I wouldn't say that maybe I wouldn't categorize it as what's the word you use? I can't think of it now, but controversial. I wouldn't do that. I would say that it's more true to the. I'm not trying to start a gender war, but it's more true to the average woman right now. You know, like those are true thoughts, true feelings, true testimonies.
Yeah.
You know, be so used to, you know, that Mary J. Blige, how she sung about it. They have the same message. One just One just got one side of the story.
Right.
Good, you know, but SZA's is more like the truth. Like this is what happened. You know what I'm saying? But it's the same message.
Right.
You know, it's the same message. But I like that. I always liked about SZA. I mean, it's good talking points if you having them gender wars and say that. Somebody might say, this is why women is mad now. This is why. I get it. But it's true. Yeah. I like that. I always like, if it's truth, I feel like I can deal with it as long as it's truth. You know, because I feel like that's art. Right, and that's why I think she sells so well, because people really can testify to those same situations she's talking about with their life.
Well, you know, when I say controversial, and it's really not just SZA, it's really our whole generation at this point. Remember I said I grew up conservative, right? Socially conservative. Mary J. Blige, yeah, she talked about the same thing as SZA, but you remember in the 90s, you could turn on a Mary J. Blige song and play it around your grandma, and your grandma wouldn't bat an eyelash because you knew that Mary wasn't going to put it a certain way. Just with her word choice and her descriptions, same story, but just a different telling of it.
Right.
I think this generation, because of their upbringing, has no filter whatsoever. So I can't play SZA around my grandma. You know what I mean?
I can see, it's more raunchy.
Yeah,
probably more detailed. Detailed. But it's different eras. It's more to this era. Mary J. I mean, I would love to hear Mary J. Blige with the SZA wording. I would love to hear how that sounds.
I would love to hear SZA with the Mary J. Blige wording.
I bet you would. You wouldn't try to play around grandma. I get it. I definitely get it. I love Mary J. Blige. I ain't gonna lie. I love Mary J. Blige. Right. I love SZA too, but I love Mary J. Blige. Yeah, I love her music. So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, but it's nothing said in it that make you bad eye. You know, you're using the N word but you know, we collab.
I teach high school.
We collab a lot with R&B and rap now. So it's kind of a lot of people that be labeled rappers really aren't. They not R&B, but they sing. They don't rap.
You're right. Absolutely.
You know? If they do, it's like a couple seconds in the song. But off that, you mentioned something I want to talk about. So you said Outkast. You mentioned Outkast. You're a big Outkast fan. So I have to ask you this question. And I ask you this question, you know, just give me how do you judge, grade / rank Andre 3000? Now I ask this question because people like to say, you know, he's this, he's that, and I love Outkast. They are a phenomenal group, the best duo of all time, of course.
Right.
He don't have enough solo work to me. It's just me. Like he doesn't have enough. But I feel like we put him in these, and not that he's not great. But I mean, we get people that got no respect to Drake. I know people don't like him, whatever. But I like him. But we get somebody like him who has the catalog to really go toe to toe with anybody. We give him flack for whatever. But then we praise Andre for having the total opposite. Like he don't have near the category that this man has. Solo.
Right.
Is what I'm saying.
Because, and I'm going to say this.
And no respect to Andre 3000. I'm just throwing it out there.
I hope I meet Andre one day. Like, it's funny because people used to compare.
You got to go to the coffee shop in Atlanta. They say he stayed in a coffee shop. So just visit a coffee shop in Atlanta. They say he beat him most times.
Good deal. I might have to go in there. There's some days of summer left.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Dre. So, Dre's my number one favorite artist. So
I should have known.
There might be some bias here.
I should have known.
Yeah.
Once you said Ray Strimmer, I just kind of like, okay, let me see where you're going with this.
I get into a lot of debates with people that compare Andre to Big Boy, which is a terrible thing to do. I'm an Outkast fan, so I love both of them. But I have to say this. Andre 3000 is valued because he brings things to the game that nobody else brings. It's not about his rapping ability alone. Say it again.
Catalog?
Yeah, and not even about the catalog alone. It's the fact, remember I said earlier that I grew up socially conservative. Believe it or not, Andre 3000 makes socially conservative music. If you listen to what he talks about, Big Boy talks about the womanizing. He talks about, the dope. He talks about making money. He says a lot of positive things, sprinkled in between it. But it's things that you might hear from a UGK or from 8-Ball MJG, what have you, any Southern artist, in the rap game. 3000 gives you anything from Prince to Edgar Allan Poe to, the spectrum of life. He talks about life itself, not just the streets of Atlanta or the streets of Savannah. And because of that, it makes what he creates have more value. Drake, I'm not the biggest Drake fan in the world. I'm not gonna lie to you.
You can use Kendrick Lamar. I mean, whoever you want to use.
I'm gonna stick with Drake.
I bet you will.
I will say Drake is a Andre 3000 baby. He's one of those that is one of his offspring. He makes music that caters to a specific audience. Like we talked about the gender wars. I feel like Drake is one of these people that hears the gender wars and that inspires him to write what he writes. Whereas with 3000, he might be inspired by literally anything. Like his music does us the favor as a community of taking us out of our element. It doesn't pit men against women. It doesn't make us focus on the streets. It makes us wonder what else is out there in the world. It makes us, the very fact that he's right now walking around in Japan playing a flute. What other black man do you know of in the industry that does stuff like that? And so you're this kid and you see Andre in his goofy outfits over in Japan playing a flute, but at any moment he could put that flute down and pick up a pen and destroy you. Like that means something. That lets you know that as a young black man, I can do that too. I don't have to be out in the streets. I don't have to be a part of this gender wars thing. I could totally leave all this behind and go wander the earth if I want to. And that's a beautiful thing. I think he is overrated in a way, like as you said, because he doesn't have the catalog. But the question is, what's most valuable to you? To have a lot of music that doesn't feed you, or to have a little bit of music that helps you grow as a person? And I think that's why he gets so much props, is because the little bit that he does contribute gives you a lot to chew on and gives you a lot to think about and gives you a lot to put in this situation and that situation to help you, just grow and evolve as a person. And I grew up on Outkast. So like to this day, when I get sad, I think about that song 13th Floor Growing Old, and I just start spitting the verse, from that album. I had that whole album memorized front to back. Goody Mob's album, Soul Food. I had that whole album memorized front to back, and it walked me through my evolution and my growth as a black man. That can't be put next to this person over here who has 10 albums and this person over here who has 13 albums. I'm like, that's cool, but those 13 albums are full of things that can't help me. Things that maybe a little bit of motivational music, telling me to get my hustle on or whatnot, but tell me something that's going to help me get out of my sadness. Tell me something that's going to help me make my family stronger. Tell me something that's going to help me avoid pitfalls and make better decisions. I hate to jump off topic, but talking about Goody Mob. Goody Mob made music for the streets, but if you listen to that Soul Food album, they were telling people to stay away from this. They were making songs of mourning. Hey, I'm sad I lost my homeboy. I wish this didn't have to happen. Why are we having to deal with poverty in inner city Atlanta? Why are these children being killed and murdered by Wayne Williams and by, just the specter of all the negativity that was over Atlanta at that time? They were warning people about that. I was so fascinated when I heard the interview where they said the Soul Food album came because Busta Rhymes came in the studio and shared this book, Behold a Pale Horse, with them. And they were all reading this book. So imagine these 4 black men reading this controversial book and saying, oh, this book is going to inspire us. And then they actually made an album from being inspired by this book. That's amazing to me.
Yeah, that's dope.
What inspired your 10 albums? What inspired your 13 albums? Like, okay, you sat back and, you saw dope deals or you wrote a song about, it's like, okay, cool. Like, well, that's cool. That's art, but how is it helping me grow? This is helping me grow. That's not. So I'll take that little bit over your mountains of club bangers.
You should probably teach a class on the Andre 3000 and them. You did really well. That's a good answer.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't change my mind on it, but you definitely did a great job, and I'm not gonna lie, you talked about him very well. I like Andre. I think he can rap. Don't get me wrong. I think rap, just like I said, it's hard to compare somebody that's doing it day in, day out. It's like me saying somebody's trying to think who. Let's say somebody that played with the Bulls and is better than Jordan because he played a small amount of time. It's like you only compare careers like that without the longevity. I wouldn't. That's a big. I wouldn't. Me personally, but I'm cool with it.
I want to say this too. And this is kind of from an educational standpoint. 3000 lyrically is an English teacher's dream. I'm not an English teacher myself, but I paid attention to English class. The technique that he uses in his writing. If you're an English teacher and you know how metaphors and double entendres and things like that work, he gives you so much to unpack in his verses. There's things that he's written in 1997 that are more complex than the most elite rappers nowadays. And he makes it sound so casual. He doesn't like Lupe Fiasco is somebody that I hear a lot of positive rappers give their regards to. I love Lupe. Lupe goes out of his way to be complex. Andre 3000 gives you the complexity in a simple way. So when you're listening to him, you're not realizing the depth of what he's saying until one day you're just minding your business and then you think about something he said and it's like, oh, wow. That, to me, that's an art. That's something that's beautiful that you don't see come from many artists. So, that's the thing too, is not just the fact that he gives you healthy music, but also that his technique is like so layered. And he makes it seem like it's so easy and it's so not, which is why he doesn't put out music very often because it takes that much to create what he's creating. But if I'm just making a club banger and I want to make people dance, I can drop an album tonight. That's not, a hard thing.
It might be hard to do though.
What?
No, to drop a club banger, it might be hard to do still.
Not if you got the right producer.
Depends.
Club bangers are based on your production.
But but banger gonna be perspective. So you might think it's a banger in the studio. Somebody here and say this is trash.
Could be. But again, like even nowadays, you have artists that pick a producer like Metro Boomin or somebody like that, and that person has the formula. So once you have the formula, all you got to do. I
feel like you future shaming right now. You trying to future shame?
I'm not future shaming because
why you pick Metro Boomin for? What was that about? I did
because I thought about that song. Oh my goodness! Oh, the Kanye joint where Future starts off, "If Young Metro don't trust you, Father I stretch." Like that's a hard beat, hard. But yeah, I mean, it's just if you have a producer that knows the formula for making a club banger, you just have to show up, and you could be complete hot garbage, but that beat is going to save you on most of your tracks, and that's what I see from a lot of young artists. Like you really don't have any bars at all, but your producer is phenomenal.
Hey, it could be. I mean, I think I like this. I was kind of similar. I didn't like a lot of new music. I still don't necessarily care for it, But if I give it a chance and I listen to it, every now and then I'll have somebody that I'm like, okay, I didn't think he was gonna be that good, but he's kind of good,
Right.
I like Kodak Black. He's young, he's new.
Yeah, he's
very simple. A lot of double entendres. Everything you say about Outkast, except the positive,
right.
Obviously. I see that in Kodak Black. People don't give a lot of credit because I guess he has his own situation going on. Don't get me wrong, but when I listen to music, he paint a lot of pictures.
He does.
But simple, but it's not simple.
Yeah. I didn't like him at first, but I gave him a chance and like
I'm not gonna lie. I looked at him, I thought I wasn't gonna like him because I'm like, look at him. But then I liked him, so
yeah, he's talented. He is.
It's not a lot of them, but he's one of them I do like, Everybody else I kind of can say, whatever. I like 21 Savage a little bit, he can rap. He's okay, But I'm real big on I like Kodak a lot. Like as far as the new school. And I feel like NBA YoungBoy, I just feel like Kodak is like years ahead of all of them. Just off the music and painting pictures. I'm big on art actually being some kind of artistic form, not just going in there saying something on a beat and screaming or whatever. I like how Kodak does it, but I mean, yeah, I guess you did a good job with the Andre 3K. I can tell you're passionate about that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I might make a whole clip and just put it ode to Andre 3K. You know what I'm saying? By Earl Grey Summers. You know, but it was dope though. Like everything you saying was accurate though.
Thanks.
I still don't know if I'll put him top 5, but
I bet
you know, we'll have to live with that, man. But yeah, man. You know, dope talking to you. I hope we can get to talk again at some point. You know what I'm saying? I think that you got a lot of knowledge. So I hope you do really. Even music. You talked for a good time about music just now.
Right.
You can talk about music as well.
You know, it's funny. I think originally I did want to talk about music, and then Facebook made it to where you couldn't play copyrighted material on Facebook. And that was one of the reasons I never got into it, was because now I think you can do it on TikTok and Instagram, if I'm not mistaken.
So I think I do a pre-recorded. So when I put it up, if they say it's a copyright, I say, oh well, and I put it out. And then they like maybe it won't play in Afghanistan, but I'm thinking like realistically speaking, who in Afghanistan is saying, hey, what main dropping today? Nobody, you know. All right, cool. Mute in Afghanistan, it's fine. You know, if I have to meet them over there, then you know I'll send them a link on YouTube or something. But you can post it. Just do it in pre-production, and you know then edit and stuff like that afterwards. Okay. Cause somebody like you, I know that we like to use Facebook and stuff, but somebody like you probably always should pre-record and then put your stuff out. Reason being, because you do have something you have to think about. Right. So if you do say the wrong thing, we can take that out. We could do that. Going live is kind of risky for somebody like you in your position. It's very risky actually. Yeah. And you know, being in the school system, sometimes if you do something and they have to take off or whatever, people start to envy and they'll be the ones to report something. So you gotta make sure you know everything is good. But real quick before we get out of here, your hat.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Jesus Christ.
What about it?
I want to end it. I want what you how you feel about John Morant? Tell me, come on.
Oh man, I love John, man. I love John. I wish
would you listen to Andre 3000?
Say it again.
Do you wish to listen to Andre 3000? Do you wish that he listened to Andre 3000?
I do. Yeah, actually.
He like young boy.
Yeah, he's I love the kid, man. I wish that he had the right people in his ear. He reminds me of the kids walking up and down our hallway, straight up.
He is dumb though. He is dumb.
He is.
He's
absolutely.
their age. That's their demographic.
Down
same
to
music.
Hairstyle, like hairstyle, the way he's built. He looks like a kid from Augusta. Like literally, I've seen a lot of kids from other cities, but he looks like an Augusta kid. It's the craziest thing.
Well, that's kind of funny because you know they say you're born here, so
yeah. I was trying to hint that out.
I like that double entendre. Get your outcast going on. Real simple. I got you.
Right. I don't know, man. Like he's got such a bright future ahead of him. I agree with him on some things that he says when he says that they hate our team, man. I've been saying that for years.
Oh my God.
I'm just before it was because a lot of the stuff that if you look at the articles about him, a lot of the stuff that they bring up is old things that are already resolved. Why are you bringing up something that has already been through the court system and already been resolved that you're already cleared of? That to me that looks like a smear campaign. If you're talking about something he did today, that's fine. If you're talking about something he did last week, that's fine. If you talk about something that he did last year or something, 2 years ago, you're trying to present a certain image. I think that's the reason they went after Dylan Brooks so hard, because Dylan Brooks is nothing but Draymond Green part 2. Why doesn't Draymond Green get the same flack that Dylan Brooks gets when he does the same things that Dylan Brooks does? And matter of fact, Dylan Brooks, when he was in college, said he wants to be Draymond.
Yeah.
How do you allow this guy and don't disallow this guy?
I want to tell you, I really despise Dylan Brooks. Can I tell you why?
Why?
Nothing he did on Memphis. My brother played basketball. You probably know him if I say his name. I'm going to tell you his name afterwards. I think you know him. Okay. He played basketball, so he went to Cal. And they played Oregon.
Right.
And Dylan Brooks hit a half-court game winner. Ooh. That really pissed me off. Because he had a good game that game, boy. And I was like, okay, cool. And that's it. That's some bull. I ain't like him since then.
Really?
I'm happy he went to the NBA. Good for him, but I do not like that kid, man. But I do like his game.
Right.
I think it's far-fetched, the Draymond stretch, but I get where you're going, but I don't know. He got to win first. I think if he win, then maybe. But you said they didn't do something to Draymond, but I mean at one point, hell, Draymond got suspended in the finals. I think that's top of. I mean he's had his fair share of suspensions and bad press. He just don't care.
See, that's the thing.
He speaks.
Yeah.
When it happens, Dylan just quiet. He's been quiet all summer. Like he's been quiet since he lost. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Saying what he said and then being quiet the whole rest of the 6 months is kind of wild.
Yeah.
But shout out to Memphis, man. Maybe y'all y'all probably not winning this year though. But
we got D Rose. You know, he still got some wheels on him, possibly.
that's a double entendre. I mean, it's funny though, but it's all good. It's all good. Shout out to Derrick Rose, man. Hey, look, this is a good podcast, man. Shout out to you. Tell them where they can find you, or if they want to reach out to you, how can they reach you? All that type of stuff.
Shoot, if you are trying to find me, you can just follow me. Look for Earl Grey Summers on Facebook. Instagram still loading, and TikTok still loading. So when I get those up and ready, I will let you guys know.
Podcast on the way.
In theory. That's why I should call it In Theory.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, man. More Math Podcast. We out.